I'm Elizabeth at Literary Princess, and today I have another insane TBR. This is for September. It is thanks to exam readings. We're gonna have 5 categories today. First is going to be books from the August TBR that didn't get read. Second is going to be the long 19th century list. Third will be the Feminist Theory list. Fourth will be the nonfiction from the Victorian popular women's fiction list. And fifth will be the novels from the Victorian women's popular fiction list. Let's get going. So I did not include books that I had on the August TBR that I actually started, of which there are 2. So these are just the ones that I didn't start at all. And first one is The Daughters of Danaus by Mona Caird. I still don't know what this is about. From the sound of it, the main character, Hadria, is an artist of some kind. I think she's a musician. I've read a lot about it in my nonfiction. And yeah, she's struggling to become a musician, and she's a new woman. It's a new woman novel. I don't know anything about it other than that and the fact that it's long, and I just didn't get to it last month, so we'll try to get to it this month. Next up is Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope. This is like the 3rd TBR this is on. And I haven't gone to it. I've got my little tabs in it I've figured out how much I'm gonna read each day to get it done in 4 days. I just haven't actually done it yet. And then I have Story of an African Farm, which same thing, I've got my tabs. I'm gonna read this in 3 days. And I actually really want to start this because I've heard it's really great, but I have not gotten to it yet. This is about 2 cousins growing up in a farm in South Africa, obviously based on the title. And this is also a new woman novel, so a very early one. Olive Schreiner was considered one of the first new women novelists. All right, so those are the 3 from August. Let's move into the ones that I have not talked about, or some of them I have talked about because some of them were on other ones. Oh wait, no, hold on, I lied, there's one more. One more from August TBR. This is the Journals and Letters of Frances Burney. I'm pretty sure this was on the August TBR. It was on the July one too. I'm only reading parts of this too. You would think that I would actually read it because I'm not reading all of it. I am just reading, so it's broken down into several sections, and I am reading Evelina and Stedham Park, Cecilia and Prelude to the Court, Camilla and Camilla Cottage, and then Interlude in England, The Wanderer. So those are the ones about her actually writing. Those are all titles of her books: Evelina, Cecilia, Camilla, and The Wanderer. So I should actually read this. All right, now we're actually on to the ones that I haven't talked about much before. So this was on a previous TBR, but not last month's, wasn't on August's. This is The Missionary by Sydney Owenson, Lady Morgan. This is a dealing with India and actually a interracial relationship. And I don't know much about it other than that. It's in 17th century India. The focus is on the relationship between Hilarion, a Portuguese missionary to India, and Luxima, an Indian prophetess. Interesting. So, okay. My advisor for my long 19th century list does post-colonial literature, so she suggested this recently came to light, and obviously is interesting to post-colonial scholars. Next up is actually a reread that I have not read since I was 15. This is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. Now, I adored this at 15. It made me sob. It deals with this young woman named Tess who is poor and her father convinces her to go kind of try to form some kind of connection with their wealthier distant families, and Tess ends up getting seduced or raped, depending on how you look at it. Either way, it's not good. I personally remember reading it in high school and thinking that's not consensual at all, but, and then this is just her story after that. So I loved this. I hope I'll love it again. It's really quite long. It's also really depressing, but oh well. Next up is another Thomas Hardy. I've got 2 Thomas Hardys this month. This is The Woodlanders. So I have not read this. I don't really know what this is about. When country girl Grace Melbury returns home from her middle-class school, she feels she is now above her suitor, the simple woodsman Giles Winterbourne. And she finds herself captivated by Dr. Edred Fitzpierre, a sophisticated newcomer to the area, a relationship that is encouraged by her socially ambitious father. Well, that's a recipe for disaster. And when I originally bought this, I mistakenly said that it seemed that it had a happy ending. I have been informed otherwise. This does not end happily because it's Thomas Hardy. And why would anything end happily with Thomas Hardy? But yeah, my advisor said that I would probably love this, so I added it on. All right, and now moving on to the Feminist Theory list. First up, we have a collection of essays. This is Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde. I have read a few of her essays before, and I'm excited to read the rest of them. I've heard great things about the rest of them. It's dealing with being a Black woman in America and being a Black feminist, mostly, is my understanding. Next up is Sexual Politics by Kate Millay, which is a kind of groundbreaking work of feminist theory, which I feel like I say that every time. But I don't, oh, she looks at literature, philosophy, psychology, and politics, and she does like some readings of several classics that are all by men, though, it seems, except for maybe like one, which was kind of odd, but okay. So I'm interested to read this. I've heard a lot about it through my other reading, so. All right, and then we have one that doesn't have a real cover because it's a library book. This is How to Suppress Women's Writing by Joanna Russ. So Joanna Russ is a science fiction writer, I think. My cohort mate does some work with her, and I actually found out about her through his list and then saw she does a lot about women writing, and it's mostly women writing in sci-fi, but not always. And so I wanted to check this out. It sounded really good. How to Suppress Women's Writing, like showing how women have been suppressed over the years, which is kind of what I'm interested in, is why we don't read some of these women writers anymore and why they're forgotten. So it seems like this could be really useful to me. And it's short. Next up is The Subjection of Women by John Stuart Mill. This was written in the 19th century and is arguing that women need more rights. So obviously it's a really early piece of feminist theory, and I'm excited to read this finally. It's also somewhat short, I think. So this has 2 things in here, On Liberty and The Subjection of Women. And On Liberty goes until page 129, and then The Subjection of Women goes until page 243, so this is quite short. Yay. All right, and that is the last one for the Feminist Theory list. Next up is the Nonfiction for the women's popular Victorian fiction, and literally none of these have covers because they are all library books. So this first one is Married, Middlebrow, and Militant, Sarah Grand and the New Woman novel by Teresa Magnum. So Sarah Grand is a New Woman writer, one of the first ones. I read her book, The Heavenly Twins. I'm going to be talking about another of her books in a minute. And she's been coming up a lot in my reading, so I decided to add this to my list. I had it out of the library anyway, but I think I might want to include Sarah Grant in my dissertation, so it's a good idea to read this. And my understanding, it's just about her and her novels. So politics of middle-class marriage and middle-brow militancy, gendered plots in search for feminist form, the marriage plot in the male narrator, love triangles, the woman of genius as wife, and the eugenic plot. So hopefully that will be good. I'm just gonna put that there. I'll probably hit my head on it. Next up is one that I am not reading in full because I don't need all the essays in it. This is Margaret Oliphant, Critical Essays on a Gentle Subversive, edited by DJ Trela. So Margaret Oliphant, I talk about constantly on here because I adore her, and I'm definitely doing something with her in my dissertation. So I wanted to read some of these essays. Not all of them, because some of them are on her nonfiction, some of them are on her supernatural fiction, which I'm not working with, but stuff about the subversion of literary cliches, the female Bildungsroman. I never know how to pronounce that. I've Googled it so many times. Some stuff about her actually working in publishing, so the making of a novelist, Oliphant and John Blackwood at work on the Perpetual Curate, The Cry That Binds, Oliphant's Theory of Domestic Tragedy, and then Feminist or Anti-Feminist, Oliphant and the Women Question, which is of course quite interesting to me. So, I've read a few of these already because I did a paper for my independent study on Margaret Oliphant. So I'm gonna reread those ones and read a few of these other ones, and I'm excited for that. All right, next up is, oh, another one with no cover. This is New Women, New Novels, Feminism and Early Modernism by Anne Artis. So this is another one looking at new women novels. I seem to have a lot of those. I don't know. They're really interesting. I find it really interesting, and I really like this nonfiction about them. So, yeah, I should keep reading it, right? And then last one is another edited collection. And this is Victorian Women Writers and the Women Question, edited by Nicola Diane Thompson. And I've actually read essays out of this before, and now I'm just gonna read all the others because they are all pretty useful to me. So we've got an essay on rereading non-canonical Victorian women novelists. I know I used that one in my essay. Marriage and the Anti-Feminist Novelist. The Early Victorian Divorce Novel, which is super interesting. Fantasies of Matriarchy in Victorian Children's Literature. Harriet Martineau and the Women Question. Maximizing Oliphant, Begging the Question and the Politics of Satire. Literary Woman of the 1850s, and Charlotte Mary Young's Denevre Terrace. That's the name of a book. It must be. It's an interesting name. That's all I'm gonna say. Portrait of the Artist as a Young Woman, Representations of the Female Artist in New Women Fiction. Oh, by Lynn Pickett. She talked about that in the last book I read by her. Ouida and the Other New Woman. I read that one too because that paper on Oliphant was also on Ouida. Organizing Women. Shot Out of the Cannon, Mary Ward and the Claims of Conflicting Feminism. Oh, I'm interested in that. I just read Marcella in August. E. Nesbitt and the Woman Question, and Marie Corelli and the New Woman. And I'm actually reading a book by Marie Corelli. We'll be talking about that in a minute. So yeah, just lots more. All right, and now we have the novels from that list, and there's actually only two because these are my last two novels. I originally had a few more and I took them off because they were the novels that George Eliot discussed in Silly Novels by Lady Novelists, her essay. And I read the first volume of Rank and Beauty a few months ago, and I couldn't do it. I was just like, no, I can't do this. I'm like, I don't even want to know about these other ones. So I've kind of nixed that from my list. So I did add on this one, The Beth book by Sarah Grand. It keeps coming up in my nonfiction reading, and it is a semi-autobiographical novel depicting the portrait of the artist as a young woman, which is like a theme that keeps coming up. So Beth is the main character. Funny, that's my nickname. I hope she doesn't end tragically like Beth in Little Women, because that's depressing. But I keep hearing a lot about this one in my nonfiction reading, so I was like, hey, you know what? It was $4 on the Kindle. I was like, let's just add it. What the hell? Especially since I was running out of books on that list anyway, whereas I was running out of books on that list. That's the point, Elizabeth. The books are supposed to go down as you keep going. I go and add more. But I actually think this will be useful for me, so. And then the last one is Thelma by Marie Corelli. I hate this copy so much. Why? I know I've ranted about these a million times on here. I hate these giant copies. I don't know who does these. I don't like them. Anyway, this Marie Corelli is a sensation novelist from my understanding. So she was writing around the same time as Ouida. And I really don't know anything more about this because instead of having anything useful on the back cover, it just says midnight, without darkness, without stars, midnight, and the unwearied sun stood, yet visible in the heavens, like a victorious king throned on a day of royal purple bordered with gold, the sky above him, his canopy. You get the idea. That's not useful to me. Why would you put this on the back of the book? Anyway, so I'm assuming this is about a woman named Thelma. I feel like that's a good guess. And I can use this as a fan. Ugh. Anyway, so that is the last one for, it's gonna fall on my head. Anyway, that was the last one for my crazy September TBR. Let me know down in the comments below, what are you reading this month? Have you read any of these? What did you think? Are you thinking, Elizabeth, you didn't even make it through your crazy TBR last month? What are you doing making another ambitious one like this? Because I'm kind of thinking that, but yeah, it's been great chatting with you all. I will see you soon. Bye.